So we're going to be talking about how do you get better sleep, generally speaking. What is it that people, and this is a massive problem. I can't remember the statistics, but I think it's an increasingly bad problem. I didn't really check it, but here are some ideas about what I think causes the lack of sleep. Basically, I'll boil it down to, okay, so there's kind of like a couple of levels. One, the most obvious thing is stress and anxiety. And as stress and anxiety increase, I think it's inevitable, or would you say reasonable, that people's sleep is going to get worse. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think
they're correlated.
I think your course is about happiness.
Yeah.
And happiness leads to, in all aspects of our life, greater improvement. We're having to talk about sleep. And sleep is one of the most fundamental functions a human being has. Without that functioning properly, it leads to all sorts of terrible mental health problems, stresses, and can cause hallucinations and delusions. And it's lack of sleep in society should be treated as a disease.
Yeah.
Dangerous.
Yeah, 100%. And I like the fact that you're saying that there are a whole bunch of problems. Anything that's going wrong in your life is going to affect your sleep. If there's things in your relationship that's not right, you're going to sleep worse. If you're not happy with your work, or even your view as yourself in the world and how you live your life, and you feel there's conflict of some sort, right? Like, I believe this, but that doesn't seem to be helping me live in the world. Yeah, like, for example, does God exist? I think that's a fundamental thing, right? And then all these worldviews, if your worldview clashes with the world, that's the general picture, right? Then you will have a lack of sleep. So let me make it a bit clearer. You might have a theory about how your world works. For example, a lot of people's theory is that you can be happy as an individual and you don't need to be forming families or communities and stuff like that. And that has statistically been proved wrong, which is because the biggest killer in London, despite London being full of people, is loneliness. So we get affected. So that worldview has come about through a worldview called individualism. So that's what I'm talking about, right? So let's get back to sleep and how we can work that. And I'll try to propose the most simple possible solution. Okay, and this is what I've noticed, that in Muslim countries there's a lot less stress, and I say religious people generally are a lot less stressed. And this is what you can YouTube this for psychology. You could YouTube this about religious people are far more happier than atheists for some very important, really obvious reasons. And so I'm going to try to focus on one word that Muslims say all the time, repeatedly in their 5 daily prayers. Okay, it's not one word, it's one phrase. It's Allahu Akbar. Have you ever heard of that? Allahu Akbar, you get it here on news maybe?
Occasionally, yeah.
Do you want to guess what it means, or do you know what it means?
You just go through.
It means God is the greatest, right? Now, why is that so powerful in giving better sleep, right? Because when our ego naturally inflates. Bigger and bigger. We are important, especially in the individualistic society. Okay, we think we are important, and anything that affects that importance causes us anxiety. So, this is the thing that I notice when I come back to England. People go, oh, somebody looked at me the wrong way, and this, that. It's like, who cares? Why does that matter? Because if you give yourself importance, then it matters. But if you don't give yourself importance, you give everybody else importance, and you give more importance to creating understanding, then there's very little that can cause anxiety because you're not the center of the world. Because God is the greatest. God is the most important. Everything else insignificant, including yourself. Right? At that level, you just feel at peace. What do you think about that?
It's very interesting leaps. Potentially danced through there.
Yeah.
You start off the description of the problem with very reasoned interpretations of reality, stress, unhappiness, loneliness, and whether you believe in a God or not has little to do with the impact of what's happening in your personal life. What is impacting your personal life is not being able to pay a bill, or watching one of your family members die in a drone attack. These things are real, these things happen, and these things can only be transcended by the use of talking with other human beings, not an external body that's ethereal, but a real human being who's of political power and understanding, and to engage them with a solid aim of, instead of dying of cold in the UK because you can't afford the heat, which will make you lose sleep prior to that event, it's quite stressful, dying of a poverty-related incident. Talking about just if you're going to start praying to God.
So God is this theoretical, let's say possible theoretical idea, and you're saying that can't have a physical effect on your life. Is that what you're saying?
I'll round up. So paying a bill, God will have not interject in that if there is a God. But what can interject in that is a government that makes sure that that bill doesn't exist in the first place, because most all poverty is designed into society, therefore you can design it out.
So I would say in response to that is, would you agree that in any one circumstances, if there are two people, let's say it's you can't pay the bill for your energy bill, right? One person can react one way, another person can react completely different.
This is what we're talking about.
That's what I'm talking about. And I'm saying belief in God can make you... So a lot of people who believe in God do not think anything is random. It's 100% designed. So that basically God is allowing that, and it's a lesson. And they will take it as a lesson. And they won't feel anxious about it. I've been in those situations loads of times, by the way. I've been loads of times when I had no money and I would still be giving to charity and I wouldn't feel worried about it.
But if you die of poverty, you don't have much choice about worrying or being happy. Your ability to be happy when you're dead is quite minimal.
So that's this one. Not like
let's nail on this.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
How are you going to be happy when you're dead?
I'm talking about living people. I'm talking about living people and how they experience the world. So living people can choose. Once you're dead, there's no feelings, right? We're not talking about that. We're talking about the reality. So one thing I did say, I don't believe I made a leap of any sort, because I said there are lots of problems in life, and then those problems largely have come because of our suffering of those problems, because a problem doesn't automatically mean you're going to suffer. You can actually enjoy the problems. Okay, I enjoy many of my problems, right? Okay, it might sound strange, but it's a religious way. A lot of religious people, not just Muslims, I hear Christians talk about it that way as well, right? So they individualism causes that. And then I also mention, and you can YouTube this yourself, that being religious makes you less prone to anxiety and mental health problems. Okay, and there's loads of practical reasons. One is the mindset, knowing that nothing is accidental and it's all designed. God has created this particular task and challenge for you, see how you handle it, but also create good situations where you're more economically stable. For example, religion increases your ability to have a well-rounded family, and that's statistically you can see that. Yeah, so you can see that just in this country, for example, if you go so. In Europe, generally, the population is rapidly decreasing. But if you look at, if you do a demographic breakdown of who's having the children, who's not having children, there'll be the Muslims and the non-white families who are having most of the children, and the white families, which are in this country atheistic, basically, or non-religious. Those families are rapidly decreasing. That demonstrates kind of the ability to stick together. And your ability to stick together directly is one of the most powerful demonstrators of long life and mental health. So it's all connected, very much to believing in God.
So if you're a family in Iraq,
Yeah.
and you're very religious,
Yeah.
Muslim,
Yeah.
and suddenly a foreign power comes in
Sure.
and starts murdering everybody you know.
Yeah.
See, the thing is,
Now, what we're
And
doing,
destroy
we're
that.
comparing like with like. So I'm saying if there was an atheist, but let me
you've
just.
had your
Okay, go on. Yeah.
and you have
Sure,
your
sure.
right to reply.
Yep.
And I will never interfere.
Sorry, you're right.
Interfere with that.
You're right.
So that family in Iraq, which has been very religious, maybe since the very beginning, your religion, in fact, but that could well be a family totally dedicated to that. And it's very hard to get a good night's sleep knowing that there's some Christian army that is now randomly just killing people, which has been proven to be the case in Iraq.
I'll call it an atheist army myself personally, but yeah.
It's a Christian army. It's a crusade happening and you think that American army is atheist. Now, we'll have to. I don't have that discussion now.
Sure.
But we will have that discussion. I can guarantee you that.
But there is strong, especially America's a bit different, I suppose. It's got more Christian, but no. Anyway, go on. You were saying about Iraqi family being bombed.
Christian army. Just the reason why I call it Christian army is because people like George Bush, Tony Blair, all of them, and Blackwater, which is a private weapons company. All of them are fanatical Christians.
Okay. Good point, man.
And the soldiers are mainly working class poor who are brought up in Christian societies and all told that anybody with a brown skin who happens not to be preaching Jesus is clearly a threat to society. They're a threat just to be brown.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
You go up an extra level if you're saying anything that doesn't sound like English, as in from the Bible English, by the way, not English.
Yeah.
So, but we'll definitely talk about this army.
Sure. Okay.
You think materialised.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, so you're saying if you're bombed, you're in Iraqi family being bombed, then
you're going to lose sleep. You're not going to be able to create economic stability. The poverty now in Iraq is profound. Where before, I'm not saying it's perfect, by the way, but it was actually they owned their own oil, which was being semi-nationalised, and meant that the money was actually being given back to the Muslim community, which I can see why.
Well, I don't want to call it Muslim community because Iraq is not just Muslims. Christians, Jews, whatever.
Thank you.
Atheists, everybody.
Thank you. I would say the majority.
Yeah, sure.
Was, but the majority. And all they've done is go to work, which is wonderful. Have lovely food, great conversations, and wonderfully believe in a God, and express that. They did absolutely nothing to help their sleep, because when it comes to events like I've just described, just relying on an external from the planet Earth, when I'm saying external use case, is of absolutely no help whatsoever. The only way to deal with this horror that is now transpiring, this is all war, by the way, not just the Iraq War, but the Iraq War is clearly a very president very meaningful in this conversation.
Sure. Okay, yeah.
It's all war.
Yeah.
It's only political understanding and agreement that, for example, creating a constitution, and that these Muslim, Jewish and Christians need to agree upon some basic action, which means people like Bob the Destroyer won't exist anymore because he hasn't got a route to hell.
So the Iraqi family, you're saying does not help them in their sleep, let's say, when they're being bombed. Having this belief in God does not help.
It works when they're not being murdered, yeah.
Yeah, we're talking about living people. We can't talk about the feelings of dead people.
Well, we can't, but there is...
But that's what I'm going to focus on.
But you do believe in a heaven, correct me if I'm wrong.
Sorry? I believe in a heaven, yeah.
Yeah, so...
I believe in heaven in this planet as well, but that's another,
That's also very relevant. So, for you, it still is an important conversation to talk about when people have died.
Cool. So what I'm going to say is, in response, okay, so I'm trying to compare life with life, which means if you've got an atheist, okay, who's in their bed and getting bombed, or not literally being bombed, but being bombed around. Because if they're bombed directly, they're dead, that's the end of the story, there's no feelings there, right? We're talking about life with life. So I'm saying their belief in God will definitely help you, because you know that there's no accident, there's a purpose, and you know, just the belief in God just generally makes you more calm. And I'll give you loads of examples, like so first-hand example or second-hand. I've got family who are in Syria. Okay, they've been in wars, as you know, right? And you'd be surprised how relaxed they are. There are loads of terrible things happening, the power getting cut out and all sorts of problems, but they're relaxed because of their religious belief. And I'll give you a really interesting one that you could YouTube, a really interesting example of a Guantanamo Bay detainee who was in prison for about 15 years and brutally treated for 15 years. And people were shocked at how he managed it, right? And his answer was he would he would recite verses of the Holy Quran in his mind while that brutal behavior was treated, inflicted on him, to the extent that he didn't realize how many years he was in prison. You can check that. There's a Hollywood movie made about him called The Mauritanian, and also a fantastic interview with him by Michaela Peterson, who is daughter of Jordan Peterson. Do check it out, where he talks about how he survived that incredibly brutal treatment for about 15 years, something ridiculous. So it definitely helps your psyche, and it's not just those two examples. YouTube generally, mental health, religious beliefs, absolutely helps for two reasons: your mindset, as well as the protection you create around yourself, which is family, and also good behaviors like not borrowing money and stuff like that, because that's like against Islam. You avoid borrowing money as much as possible, and you need to buy less things because that's less of your worldview. Your worldview means it's not through things like Dust was saying, like the only solution to a problem is if somebody else does something. No, it's kind of like the things I have are good enough for now. Last thing I want to say, because this is often said, that Iraq is terrible even now. If you watch a video of Iraqis at the moment, many of them are fantastic time. I hate it when not you, but like some people say Africa. Oh, Africa's a terrible place. I want to go to Africa. You go to so many countries in Africa, they're having the most amazing time. I'm jealous of them. Just to clarify that. So we have kind of these views, and I'm thinking even moving to Syria at some point because it's so cheap, people are so friendly, and the food is really good, by the way. There, that's another story. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
So I think the danger of what you've done here is just accept the fact people have been murdered, and you accepted it, and because you accept the fact, oh, I'm going to get murdered, I'm now therefore calm about it because I'm now at one with the universe. Where the danger of that is that you've not even reported a crime. In that framework, all you've done is be led as cattle for whatever the end product is for that cattle. Generally isn't very good, by the way, as a rule for cattle. And that's just so profoundly disturbing, watching so many people being slaughtered and not respond with any legality or conclusion to make sure that never happens again. And yes, I don't think that's really what religion should be about, if that's what you're claiming it is. I think religion would be actually something where it's not vengeance, it's not vengeance or revenge. It's nothing as disgusting and as gross as those low-level human responses, but a very high-functioning response, which is A, don't let it happen again, kind of common sense in my head. And B, look for a Nelson Mandela-like justice, where people, there's no death sentence or anything. It's disgusting as that as well, have a death sentence or that sort of primitive medieval confirmation of a job well done, justice met. But justice is in following the actual path that led people to think that. So we did a video here. The last video we did here was every genocide. Can't remember the title. Every genocide begins with a sentence. Begins with a sentence. What is that sentence? And that is the first path to making sure genuine, humane, and sustainable and sincere justice actually starts the process of that. And look what happened to Saddam Hussein. Just dug out and then murdered. A man murdered by the Christian Crusade, who put him in power. And then went, now you're a bit inconvenienced because now you've had this idea where you want to be independent, you want to have an agency, not you as in Saddam Hussein, but as a country, and not be totally bowing constantly to a Christian empire. I mean, no one should bow to a Christian empire, or Muslim empire, or a Jewish empire, or a socialist empire, or atheist, or etc., etc. No, none of that. We should just sit around the table and know that your community deserves protection, and if you want to convert people to it, then that's your right. People have the right to say, should have the right to say no without any fear of. And everyone can sleep, and then everyone can wake up the next day, sleep on healthy sleep, and then wake up the next day and go, well, maybe I was wrong. Maybe I do want to become a Muslim or a Jew or a Christian.
But we're not like converting people, we're just talking about...
Just saying, there's nothing wrong with converting people.
Okay, yeah.
As long as
I'm not saying the same, but...
long as the framework of saying no or yes is met with absolute sincerity, either or either.
So can you summarise what you were just saying, just in that section you just said, like, because I kind of lost the thread.
Summarise. So you've described a situation where you've accepted people being murdered.
Now I got it. So the main thing was you shouldn't accept your fate, as it were. Is that what you're basically, right?
That's what you're proposing.
Yeah, and so thanks for making that point so I can clarify. So in Islam, you're allowed to defend yourself, okay? And not only that, they make it's been demonstrated through the early Muslim empire that belief made them, either their belief or, a very important point, that actual reality of a god made possibly the fastest growing empire, okay, who beat the Romans and the Persians, who were the biggest empire at the time, and they were the Muslim empire was basically nothing. These were basically literate nomads who beat the Romans and the Persians out of nowhere. They came out of nowhere. Okay, so this is like, first of all, I'm definitely not talking about being passive. Yeah, but I'm saying don't be anxious and panic, which is debilitating. That doesn't help. Panicking and being anxious doesn't help you. So being calm and thoughtful, which is what you were suggesting, which is exactly what I recommend as well, that actually helps you. So their calmness actually helps. It's not just giving up, not at all. Nobody said you should just give up. And Islam does respond to defend. And how should a family respond? They should be part of the government and part of the army to defend themselves if they can, or make their nation stronger so that they have better defences against these other countries. But unfortunately, then I'm going to go sidetrack. When you're not a good Muslim, for example, and you're corrupt, your country becomes weaker anyway. So maybe I do blame the Iraqis for being a relatively weak country, for being easily attacked.
What? So did you say you blamed Iraq?
I blame Iraq to some extent because they have a large level of corruption. A lot of Muslim countries are corrupt. So let me give you the big picture. And I think a lot of Muslims would agree with this, right? That there was a time when the Muslim empire was so strong that no country could mess with them. That's when they were following Islam. But now all these Muslim countries are incredibly weak because they're so corrupt.
You don't need to have
But that's kind of not the... maybe I shouldn't even touch that because I want to go into sort of the sleep topic. But I'm
way off that.
Yeah, exactly. So the two things are, there's the belief in a God gives you calmness, and the reality of a God can actually help you.
Oh, you just hit on something massive. You think having more weapons means less war? That's what you've said.
That is a whole different topic that I don't want to go into because it's supposed to be on sleep. Okay, we can stop it and we can do a new video.
You've literally just said that if you blamed Iraq for being Iraq.
No, there's a whole load of problems in Iraq. Yeah.
That's bordering and being cruel. That statement. If you're from Iraq, I think you would agree with that statement. I think being bombed out of existence by...
See, okay, I'll give an example. If there were a more central part, so there was no corruption. There's a lot of countries who've got oil and they're corrupt and are misusing it, right? Okay. If there were a more central part of the world economy and loads of people were working in there, then they couldn't be bombed so easily. You can't just bomb China, for example.
They'd love to.
They would love to, but they can't just do it. Well, not so far anyways. They're further down the list.
So because China's got one of the world's biggest populations, so there's a big difference between those two countries. It has nothing to do with being dedicated to one of them's.
Okay, so let's round it up about, because we've done half an hour on sleep, what would be your, because I want to make it as sleep-centric as possible.
Way off topic.
Okay, yeah, so anyway.
I'm responding to what you said. I'm not just randomly come out with sentences.
Okay, so just because it's half an hour on this, anything you want to say about sleep, and then I'll make the last one about sleep.
Sleep is beautiful. Healthy sleep makes you healthy. And knowing when you wake up, you're waking up into a reality which you have political agency over, which your religion or government or democracy has embodied in you personally, will guarantee you sleep. If you don't have that, then you'll never have a decent sleep.
Okay, and my summary would be, if you want good sleep, you need a good mindset because you don't want stress. And knowing that there are no accidents in this world and it's all well defined by a God definitely makes that more peaceful, and that's statistically shown. So you can ask, as I say, I've said many times on YouTube on this video, do check out the relationship between lack of stress, happiness, and being religious. I think there's lots of practical reasons for the mindset, and there's a practical reason which is you do things that protect you through family and through family values that are embodied in religion. Thank you.
Alright, I'll say goodbye.
Oh, we have to do it properly. I
Say
didn't.
goodbye.
Sorry, yes, we're. How are we going to say bye-bye?
I'm going to say it like I always do.
Oh, go on.
Goodbye. This is Dust, and he's now settled.
It's more fun with Dust, isn't it? Rather than me just switching it off.